The images from September 11th and the War on Terror forever have changed how we see the world and how we see each other. Muslim Americans say misperceptions are leading to mistrust, and a whole community is suffering. Fear is a word many use to describe life after 9/11. Some fear another attack, others fear government security measures like racial profiling. 21-year-old Lena Alarian fears for her father's life. In 2003, Sami Alarian was arrested on charges of funding the Palestinian Islamic Jihad, or the PIJ. He subsequently was imprisoned under conditions that Amnesty International called gratuitously punitive.
Kept in solitary 23, sometimes 24 hours a day. He's diabetic, and sometimes he wasn't given his proper treatment for that. There were constantly fire alarms going off. It was extremely harsh on him, and he remained strong, but it's only natural that, over time it would completely debilitate a person.
Alarian was acquitted on 8 of 17 charges. 8 other charges were dropped, but he's serving 19 months in jail after a plea agreement on the last charge.
He basically agreed just to put his suffering and our suffering to an end. He agreed to plead guilty to a nonviolent charge, i.e. providing services to people associated with the PIJ.
The fallout for Alarian and her family isn't limited to living without a father. Every day they and other Muslim Americans struggle for fair treatment by others. Christina Abraham is the Civil Rights Coordinator for the Council on American Islamic Relations in Chicago. She says last year more than 400 Muslim Americans reported civil rights violations.
They say, I don't understand why this is happening to me, because I came here and, I lived here for so many years, and all I want, is to be a part of this society, and I just don't understand why I'm not being accepted.
A 2004 Cornell University national study found nearly half of all respondents believe in some form of restriction on Muslim American civil liberties. Alarian says it's unfair to associate terrorism and the 9/11 attacks with the entire Islamic community.
This isn't Islamic. I mean, it's antithetical to the religion in every possible way. And the fact that it was carried out in the name of Islam was probably the worst crime.
People on both sides agree fear is what motivates these perceptions. But even those who are closest to the attack say that's not something we should hold on to.
Muslims and the Muslim religion is probably less understood by Western society, and I think that makes it easier than to draw connections between these fanatics and probably your everyday Muslim.
34-year-old Mike Dunn was in the Second World Trade Center tower when it was hit. He now lives in Chicago and says the experience has given him important perspective on life.
Those people that didn't get out, they were just going to work. So I think, it's important. In some ways, it's like you just go to work and you have to live your life, and you can't live in fear, but it's also, you have to appreciate, the things that you have.
The wounds left by 9/11 are still fresh, but Loyola University professor Marcia Hermanson says the attacks are not the only reason Muslim Americans are struggling for tolerance.
Because I think we have to factor in the ongoing war in Iraq. And you have to realize that the images that people are seeing of people in the Muslim world and that sort of framing of the Muslim as the enemy, I think over time that is becoming kind of ingrained in the public image.
Dunn says he's not immune to these negative stereotypes, but he also says you can't blame an entire culture for the acts of a few radicals.
I'm not at a place where I've ever forgiven those people that did this. I mean, there is definitely I would say hatred in my heart towards those people. But at the same time, I think it would be wrong to apply those labels and that hatred that I have towards those people towards all Muslims or Muslim Americans.
A 2006 Gallup poll found almost 40% of respondents admitted to having at least some prejudiced feelings toward Muslims. And nearly 1/4 say they would not want a Muslim neighbor. Even though the statistics paint a dismal picture, Dunn is not alone in supporting Muslim Americans. Alarian says she and her family found a great deal of encouragement from a group of non-Muslims throughout her father's trial.
I think for them, they definitely felt it was their duty to say something about it because this is an important issue for Americans to think about. What direction is our country going in? What kind of freedoms are we going to sacrifice?
Alarian's father was scheduled for release in April, but that may get pushed back to as late as November 2008. He was called on to testify in a separate case and was held in contempt of court when he refused to comply. He's been on a hunger strike in protest since January 22nd.